Today's challenge is to make a cup toppling robot. We're going to make some sort of vehicle that's going to travel around inside an arena, and it's going to knock over all the cups as quickly as possible. Can you knock over 10 cups in 30 seconds? If you can't, how many can you knock over in 30 seconds? We'll see who can knock them all over the quickest. Here are some rules and tips. Okie dokie, we are ready to program our cup toppling robot. We're in Lego Spike Prime and we have our word block program open, and we're going to use when program starts. Underneath there we're going to put set movement motors. So you always need to tell the hub where you plug the movement motors or the motors that turn your wheels. And today we're going to plug our motors that turn our wheels in the ports C and D. So can everyone put that block there and change that to C and D? And we might set a speed as well. 50% is not a bad speed to start with. Maybe I recommend 80%, but you can decide what speed you want your robot to travel around the board here. And you can change that later. Don't go bigger than 100 though. It's silly to go bigger than 100 because a robot cannot go faster than 100% regardless. So don't type a bigger number in than 100. Otherwise your robot could have errors. Even if you type in 9,000, it's not going to go any faster than 100. So just trust me. Do 100 or less. Okay, so start motors. Now this motor here, this is a blue block, so this controls an individual motor. And this is if you want to have something on the top or side of your robot that actually spins around and helps knock off the cups. So if you've got some sort of propeller or something spinning around on your robot, then you need this blue block to just start that spinning. And you can leave it like that. It'll default to a speed of about 75% anyway, so you don't need to set the speed for the spinner because it doesn't really matter how fast that's spinning. All right, now we need to go to the edge of our circle or space, whatever our arena is. We need to go to the edge of it and go back again and turn. So we're going to use a forever loop. So go in here and choose forever, because whatever we do here, we want it to repeat over and over again. We obviously want it to start moving, so put that at the start. And then if it sees the white line, if it sees the white, or if it sees the line on the border of our arena, then we want it to go backwards and turn a bit. So we're going to say if it sees the line, then it's going to go backwards. So we grab an if block, if then block from the control tab. Then we need to put the sensor in here. So grab sensors and see how that's a hexagonal shape. We need to grab a hexagonal shape up here. Now if you're just using the color sensor to see a white line, you grab this block and we're going to plug the sensor into B and we change the color to white. So if it sees the white line, we're going to get to go backwards if it's white tape or bright tape, bright white-ish tape. So to get it to go backwards, you go back to movement menu and we choose the one, the top block. And we're going to go the opposite way here. So whatever that is, we're going to go the opposite way. Up usually means forwards, down usually means backwards. So we're going to get it to go backwards, but only for a little while. We can choose seconds or rotations. I like to work in seconds. Maybe make it go backwards for 1 second. Okay, you could change that later. You might say 0.8 seconds, or you might say 1.2 seconds. You can change that number later. This is how long it goes backwards for when it sees the white line. Then you want it to turn. So if you want it to turn quickly or sharply, you change this to 100. 100 will make it spin on the spot. Okay, you could go right or you could go left. It doesn't matter which way it turns really, but if it's the higher this number is, the sharper its turn. If you do a turn like this, like 50, it's going to turn on a bit more of an arc. Okay, this number here isn't degrees, it's how sharp the turn is, but it really depends on how long it turns for. And I know that 100 means that one wheel kind of turns one way, one wheel turns the other way, so it virtually spins on the spot. And often you might want to make it turn for less than a second. Try 0.7 rotations to start with. Again, you can change this number later if you really want to. Okay, so let's have a look at our code. We've set the movement motors and we've set the speed. It'll keep moving at about 80% the whole time. You can change that later, but don't go above 100. And this is the motor that spins around as a weapon that's going to knock any cups off with some sort of propeller. Okay, remembering that your car or vehicle cannot be bigger than 30 centimeters in any direction. So if you're going to add a propeller, make sure it fits inside the 30 centimeter rule. Okay, and we're going to plug that into port A. Your other motors are plugged into C and D, and then your sensor is going to be plugged into B. So we've used A, B, C and D ports. Now, if you're having trouble recognizing a white tape because your tape or the border of the circle isn't exactly white, you could experiment with some other colors, but even not that color, maybe like that. If it's not a color that it recognizes, then maybe do that. But I don't think it's going to work very well. I think the best option if your sensor's playing up is to use the reflected light. So you can take that one out. There's another one here that looks like reflected light here. Okay, and it's got a percentage there. And we're going to plug that into B, remember. Now this can confuse a few people, but when you're actually connected, you can tell how much light it's seeing by tapping on the icon at the top. At the moment, it's sensing color. So we need to change this so it senses reflected light. Okay, so reflect. Now it says 8%. You can see that when it's on the black, it's reflecting about 8%. That's because my sensor's pretty low to the ground and it all depends about what height your sensor is, okay, and how much light there is in the room already. When I put it on the white, I'm going to put on the white over here. You'll see now that it sees 50 or 60% light. Okay, so it sees a lot more light when it's on white. So white there, black there, it sees 7%. Over here, it's seeing 60%. Okay, so we need to say when it's more than this, like when it's getting close to that, we need it to go backwards. So when it's more than the black, so the black was about 6 or 7%. So back in our code, we'll just get rid of this block. Back in our code, we can say when it's greater than, it has to be greater than, so make sure that says greater than there. Greater than, maybe you could say about halfway between 60% and 8%. So about, you could say 30%. When it's greater than 30%, we're going to get it to go backwards. So if I press play now, it should, when it sees the white, it's seeing greater than 30%, so it's going backwards. Okay, so that's cool for a black and white board. And if the colors were inverted, if the colors were the opposite, then you'd probably just have to change that to a less than sign. Because if this is all white, that means when it's really bright, you want it to say when it's less than bright. When it's black, then you want it to go the opposite way. Just experiment with this. It's usually good. If you've got a dark area with a light rim around it, then this will be a greater than sign. If it was a light area, if you've got a light main area, like a light circle and a dark border on it, then it'll be less than. But leave it as greater than, I think. If you've got tape on the floor, I reckon try greater than. And just hover your robot above the tape and see what the percentage is. And hover the robot on the main area of the circle and see what the percentage is. And then put a number in that's kind of in the middle of those two numbers. Generally a number like 20% should work. So you could try 20%. If it's a light border on the outside of your shape or your arena, if it's a light coloured tape or paint, then you should go greater than 20. But really, you will have to adjust this number yourself. So I'm going to leave it blank. And you can put any number you like in there that suits your arena. Connect your robot, place it in the middle, see what the light reading is, then place it on the border, see what the light reading is, and then put a number that's roughly in the middle in that blank space. Pause the video now if you're the teacher so the kids can see the rules. You could use sumo wrestling boards if you've made any. If you haven't seen these before, I made them, and I've made a video here. You can see at the top of the screen there's a video you can click on to go and make those if you want. If you haven't got time for that though, you could possibly just use a little trestle table. A little trestle table works, or even a big trestle table works, because you can code the robot to move backwards when it sees more light. So if a light sensor goes over the edge of the table, it should see more light. Also, you could put black tape around the edge of the table if you wanted to. If you haven't got trestle tables and you don't have sumo rings, then you can also just use masking tape on the floor. So I just ripped up 6 lots of 50 centimetre pieces of masking tape and one longer one, which was about 96 centimetres long. And then I put one down on the ground, and then I put another one parallel to that one, about 86 centimetres from the first one. So I used a tape measure, measured about 86 centimetres, chucked another 50 centimetre piece of masking tape down. The idea is we're trying to make a hexagon because it's a bit more exciting than a square and it's a bit easier than a circle. I don't think you can make a circle with the masking tape very easily. So you put the 96 centimetre one across the middle, and then that sort of gives you points where you can connect the other 50 centimetre ones to make a hexagon. So you just touch the edges of the temporary one across the middle and the original pieces, and once you put all 6 50 centimetre pieces on the ground, you should have a pretty good hexagon. I mean, you might need to touch it up a bit with tape, or if there's any gaps, just fill in the gaps with some extra tape. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be a closed shape so that the robots can't escape. So any gaps you can put little bits of tape in, but I just worked out that it calculates pretty accurately, pretty even angles, if you've got 50 centimetre sides, and you put a piece across the middle that you remove later. So now that you've got your closed shape on the ground, you can add some cups, and I usually add 10 cups and just place them randomly around the inside of the shape. And you could then put down some masking tape underneath each cup to make sure that the kids always put the cups back in the same spot. It's good to have a consistent kind of arena so the kids always have an identical challenge each time. So I put down some masking tape, or even if it's on a board or something, you could mark it with a marker or stickers. But if the cups are always in the same spot, then it makes the activity a lot more enjoyable for the kids. Doesn't really matter where the cups go. They'll go in the same spot every time if you put some sort of marking down. And if you want to live life on the edge, literally, you could try this activity on a table. So this is a trestle table, and I've coded it to stay on the table. And you could have cups on the table, knock the cups off the table, which is pretty cool. But you just got to make sure that the light sensor sees the edge of the table a lot quicker than the wheels do. And often the wheels at the very back. With the reading, it basically comes, when it's over the edge, it sees 0% light because it can't see any reflected light. So you would say when it's less than 5% or something, get the car to reverse. Anyway, that's just an idea. You can do it on the floor if you don't want to risk it, or on a board is even better. Or a folded up trestle table works just as well, but you'll get different light readings, of course. At the bottom of the description, there's also opportunity for you to click on some links and work out how you want to score. If you want to score, there's also some student reflection evaluation sheets, and there's also a little Google sheet there where you can enter student scores. You can actually evaluate them during the activity if you really want to. You don't have to do any of those things, but there's some handy links in the description. Make sure you check them out, and check out my other videos. If you're not that confident with sensors, check out these 2 videos. Thanks for subscribing and being members, and tell your friends to become members so they can access all these awesome lessons too. Cheers.